Hi, this is Sue, and you're with Get Sold, and I'm going to say it's part two, phase two. So I just did a 27-minute video, and I forgot to hit record. So here we go again. um, this is phase two because I finally hit the information I needed to get to this step. Oh, see, I'm not saying it as good as I did the other time. All right. So what I want to tell you is this. I've been not able to make videos. I made a couple of like quick short ones, but I haven't been able to put my heart and soul into anything for months. And I didn't know why. I was shutting down. I was depressed. I was in a really bad place most of the time, trying to sort things out, trying to bounce back from human to spiritual, human to soul. Um, Trying to rectify the energies, all the energies that are going on right now, which is, solar, earth, um, negative entities that are wreaking havoc sometimes when they catch you off guard or you're caught off guard. I was back to that for a little bit. So I was just getting hit from all angles. And one of the things I heard that I had to do was I had to start taking care of myself because something was desperately wrong. Something was desperately wrong with me, and I didn't know what. And it was like everything for 58 years was just in my face to see here and now. And I was like, oh boy. So I started doing different appointments. I've always had trouble breathing. Turns out I have a deviated septum. So it's like things that I have let go because I suffer easily. I've always suffered easily. Bad trait to have. So the purpose of this video is, it's really hard for me to be super, super vulnerable and really talk about what I want to talk about, but I have to. A lot of the YouTubers that I learned things from when I didn't have a bona fide therapist or whatever, I realized how vulnerable they were being because we're still in a judgmental world. I think we're better now because so many people have like ADHD and so many things. And whether it's a birth thing, whether it's a chemical thing, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like, whether it's a starseed thing or Vax type of thing, whatever. It's still there. So you blame it on whatever, DNA, whatever, but it's still there. So I decided weeks ago that I was going to get some testing done. I had diagnoses in the past, ADHD and some other things, but I needed to know, was there more to it? Because I wasn't able to keep it together anymore. When I was younger, I like jumped right into the life that we started doing rental properties. I jumped right into something I knew nothing about, didn't have the fortitude or the strength for, but you mask, you do what you have to do. I became a realtor, so I was just doing that. I put on a great, I looked normal. I did the things that made me seem normal. I was a great advocate for other people, committee meetings, sticking up for T-bill. Come on, we need, quality of rights, life here and other things. But I couldn't do it for myself. And I wasn't dealing with my trauma all those years. I was getting sicker physically, but I wasn't dealing with anything. I didn't know how. I was defensive. I was stubborn. I'd already been railroaded like at a young age for therapy. And I mentioned that briefly in another video where, hey, at 11, I tried to hurt myself really bad. And then a year later, my dad wants to put me in therapy, but it was more or less to fix the whole family dynamics. Like everybody, like I can't fix a bad marriage. I can't fix what's going on here. And I wouldn't talk. But it was like, you aren't sending me here to heal me. You're sending me here because you need me to fulfill a function for you. And sorry. Then it happened again after more re-traumatization and an event that happened with somebody, photographer. And I wound up getting pregnant. And my doctor, when I got back to Connecticut, I came back to Connecticut, homeless, penniless, 7 months pregnant, unwanted. I was finally allowed to stay in our trailer in the back of our house, but definitely unwanted. My first boyfriend who I was with, he didn't understand what happened, and neither did I, because I had no self, and this person told me what I was going to do under the guise of something else. Either way, the therapy part was this. My doctor, who I went to when I got back to Connecticut, he did not want me to keep the child. I was 19 at the time, but would be 20 by the time I had him. And he's like, nope, you're too young. And he's the one that brought me into the world. And he's like, I'm going to set you up with a therapist and a adoption agency. I was like, what other choices do I have? It's just me. What do I know about raising a child? Well, at the same time, I was already being served papers for court. And he was trying to say at 7 months, I was an unfit mother. Well, a lot of people laughed at that, but I didn't. I'm like, hey, I don't know. I'm young and this person's a lot older than me. So I don't know what can happen here. I'm not going to take it for granted. So I began researching. But in that process, I was made to do psychiatric testing at least 3 times. And it was terrifying because I didn't know what was in my brain. I didn't know. I knew that I felt sane enough, but I knew there was problems. I knew that I couldn't function like everybody else I knew. I just knew that I was super creative, and I thought that was the reason. Like there's too much on this side of the right side of the brain, the rest doesn't work right. But I didn't know what I was going to do about it. Anyways, so those incidents of being forced into therapy literally made me feel like, nope, we're not ever doing this. And if I have to go to therapy, I'm going to be super defensive. I'm going to be proud. I'm going to be stubborn. So I'm going to talk my way around knowing what I already know and convince them that, hey, I got this. I got this. We're here to meet, whatever. If you've got something to add to it, great, whatever. But I was my own worst enemy because of those incidents. All right. Fast forward to today. I hope I'm still covering some of the things I said in the other video. A lot of bad stuff was going on in my brain after Cali. I was making videos like crazy in Cali, and that was good. I was stable. And then I got here back home and I was not stable. Too many changes, too many things, too many repercussions of some of my actions because of the old programming, things that had happened outside of my control yet again, because I was still codependent. I was still having issues then. And I was shutting down every day. I was in bed every day. Like, I can't move. I can't think. I can't. Then it got so bad, I was starting to have those thoughts again. And I said, okay, the minute I know I'm having those thoughts, somebody's infiltrating my brain. So that I knew on top of my own stuff that I was trying to figure out, I was also being, attacked again by those little pair of naughty negative entities. So I had to kind of get rid of them again. So I decided to ask my doctor, can I be tested for my brain stuff? Is there somewhere that I can go that will be, that I can get tested? So she set me up. This went on for 3 weeks. I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, here we go again. But I was asking for it because I needed to know. And I know a lot of spiritual people are like, don't get caught up in this and the human side of it, whatever, whatever. Obviously, it was past the victimhood thing after my parents died in 2016. It's like, I know, I had a great teacher for shadow work. I'm not a victim. I get that. But there was a piece missing that I couldn't bridge. Like there's get sold, and that's my voice to handle, stuff I just need to talk about. I have to get it out, even if it makes no sense and nobody watches. Okay, fine. But then there's still the piece missing of how do I bridge? How do I get to the next stage? And I had to know the human aspect of it. I had to know what my soul had set me up with, in a sense. Like, I was only guessing for years, but because I was smart, that really messes you up because you're intelligent. I take in information. I love to research, things like that. But I can't function some days to save my life. I can't follow a straight line. I can't focus. All these things. Okay, I'm going to design something today. Nope, no, you're not. Nope. And whether it was ADHD or this or that or whatever, I had to know. So the last meeting, and this is really weird because every meeting I went to, holy crap, all the cars, like not all of them, but a good portion of them, at least 10 on one day, all had angel numbers. Like, boy, they were talking to me. I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be getting this information or something. So by the third appointment, which was just the other day, November 1st, which is our 111 portal, ironically, again, angel numbers all over the place. And I pay attention to every single one, and then I memorize them, write them down when I get home, and I'm just like, look at this. 666 is 3 times, and no, that's not just a demonic number, sorry. 777, 999, all 555, 333. Of course, the 2 2s and the 4 4s and all that. And I'm like, what is happening here? So I get in, I sit down, and he's got a couple of copies of the report. I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. And he had this look on his face, very compassionate, very soft. And again, being a male, I was always like sort of railroaded by male energy. And again, I know from a soul perspective, it's what I had to learn. Because I also identified with strong male energy myself from other lifetimes, but either way. So he just looks at me with his very soft, kind of compassionate look on his face. And I'm like, oh man. So he explained a test to me, explains what they're looking for. He explains there was 8 categories, significant categories. And he said in the nicest way, he said, you need to validate yourself for still being here. And I was like, what does that mean? He said, out of the 8 categories, you tested for every one of them positive. So in other words, all of those 8 things, and I already knew I had some of them, from prior diagnoses, but now it was a whole 8. And he says, we write on it, rule out. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's like, if you want to take this further and try to rule something out, but as I'm here in front of you, you have all of these 8 things. And it was such a validation going, I'm not crazy. I feel like it sometimes. And I've had those moments over my lifetime where I've said, can I just go somewhere and just do my art? Let me just be in a room somewhere making baskets or art and just not worrying about the world. I can't. It's too hard. It's too painful. And then I learned about each thing from some of these YouTubers about the over emotional and intense emotion. And that's, yes, it's an empathic thing, which is sort of spiritual, but with these conditions also come a set of circumstances. And I'm like a real weirdo with aesthetics. Like, I'll go in a room and I'll feel the lighting and I'll look at the color and I'll be just mesmerized. Oh, that's a good color. That's not a good color. Why is that color like that? These weird things. I mean, they talk about for autistic being, textures and noises and all that. But my version was like more headed towards aesthetics because of my art background or something like that. Like, I'm so connected to the art part of it. So aesthetics bother me if they're not right. If the light bulb is not the right kind of, brightness or softness or whatever, it bothers me. All these weirdo things. I thought I was, I don't know, weird. So it was a bit of a validation in a sense. It was like, oh my God, I didn't think it was going to be all 8. And I just sat there and I was just like, holy crap. Because I did want to leave this earth so many times. My kids kept me here. Jeff kept me here. The few friends I had kept me here. The hope, the lost dreams, but the hope I still had of being that artist or being that something. But I remember as a little girl having a purpose, and I would hear something in my head when my whole life would spin on a dime with some event or some bad thing happening. Just hang on, you'll see. You'll see. I'm like, I can't even describe to you in this one video all the different re-traumatizations I had, because from birth, I was programmed to trust the world. Now, I know that's not really any different from all of us with school and government and all that stuff. But when it's directly tied to yourself, and it's also directly tied to you not trusting your instincts, trust me, you set yourself up for a lot of shit in life. Stuff you don't want to have happen is happening because you're sending out the vibe for it and you don't even know it. And then you're not trusting your own self to fight or flight. You're just standing there fawning or just freezing and just going, okay, let this be over, or something, you know? So it wasn't until I was, my last re-traumatization, believe it or not, was in like 2010. And that was the karmic twin flame thing, which was nothing I ever saw coming. It's like my soul gave me like 3 or 4 lifetimes in one. So I've been dealing with ancestral stuff, my own karmic stuff, my own body dysmorphic disorders, all of these different things that came from childhood abuse, plus the way I was either born or chemically uh, altered or whatever. Like for those of us who have ADHD, were we born with it? Are we a certain type of person, like starseeds? Or did we get too much mercury or aluminum or whatever? I can't say, and I'm not here to say that. I'm just saying with all of those things, it has made my life impossible to function in the real world on my own accord. Masking is not your own accord. Masking is doing what you think people need you to do. And it requires a ton of energy, a lot of energy. And I didn't even know there was a name for that. So once my life started quieting down, I wasn't on these groups anymore, the kids grew up, then it was like I had to face myself. And I had to fix the codependency. I had to look at everything. So that's what I wanted to say. Today's video was about the reality of what I've been going through the last few months as a sum total for my entire life, and why I couldn't take anymore. Why it was like my poor brain is like, just stop, stop blaming me, stop being angry at me. I'd fight so hard to override my brain, and I was so angry having to take Vyvanse because it was the only thing at the time, but it jacks me up and I can't sleep at night. It's amazing. I've done amazing things with it. I can hyper focus with it. But other problems, it is, I guess they equate it to, it's like I don't know, it's a cane type effect, but something where you're just like super wound up. And I'm just so, nature, naturopathy type of stuff that I'm like, I don't want to be on anything. I'm still researching. I'm still learning what I can take. But I think for now, in order to get these things done, right now, the fear of not being able to support myself is overwhelming. And that's partly why I also wanted to find out, what am I dealing with here? Okay, I'm a survivor, but where do I go from here now? What do I do? I'm not proud anymore. I'm not stubborn anymore. I'm not trying to protect my insecurities or how do I say it? I'm not trying to protect myself as damaged goods anymore, because I know from a soul perspective, I'm not. But this is starting to be phase 2. This bit of information finally made me see how far I'd come, that I was able to stay on this earth, that I remember as a little girl, every time something bad would happen, or as a teen, or as, I would get re-traumatized. I would want to die for sure. But then I would keep hearing, just hang on, just hang on. It's all going to make sense. Just wait. But I almost couldn't so many times. I was making the mistakes. I was hurting people. I didn't want to do that. I felt like there was the angel and the devil, and the programming that I grew up with was the devil. And I was trying to appease to God and say, please, why am I this bad child? Why do I do bad things? Why do I hurt people? And it's this here that needed to be dealt with. And in shadow work, which I'll call the little demon there with the programming of, hating myself, letting myself be used and abused as a thing, not loving myself, not taking care of myself, all of those things, judging myself for a brain that wouldn't give me the results I wanted because I'm intelligent in this way. And I say, okay, I have ambition, I have talent, I need to make it work for me. But on this side, all those other factors were saying, no, no. And I couldn't figure out why until now, until I got this complete list. And I have to forgive myself. And I have to see now that there'll be people coming up behind me. Because again, I'm 58. So, you've got your 20, 30, 40-year-olds that we're all going to be experiencing these things. It's like my life is like a little capsule of everything that's going on in the world right now. One of the reasons why, I guess, in 2020, I started to buy into the conspiracy theories because I'm like, well, my life was a conspiracy. How do I not believe that the rest of the world isn't? I just didn't know to what extent until I did a ton of research because, that's the research thing I found out was indicative of, can be a trait of autism. So I'm like, oh, well, it works with health stuff. I used it with my dad, that's for sure, when I was taking care of him. And I learned to better care for myself because of that research with herbs and natural remedies. But then I went too far, kind of in one direction, being angry at mankind or humankind or whatever somebody wants, being mad at humans for being mean to people, Then I had to see the bigger picture. But either way, all of that can be another video. But so phase 2, I think I finally have the peace to understand that all of this was to teach me all of the things I needed to, but I had to understand it in my way, my journey's way, not another healer's way, not another mentor's way. I had to come to terms with these things, not as a victim, but to say, oh, okay, so this is what you've been dealing with. All right, now let's move on. And I don't know what that is yet, what that looks like yet, but I just wanted to share this video with you about what I feel is the turning point. So I probably missed a few things from the other video, but I owed, maybe not owed is, maybe that's not a good word, but I thank all of you for being subscribers. And I know some are for Soul 2K and some are for, different things, and that's fine. And I apologize in the last video if I did sound victimish, but sometimes I really can't find the words. I don't know how to describe things, but yet I have to say it. I have to get it out because that's part of how I heal my thyroid, believe it or not. If you're not into metaphysical stuff, you pay attention or stick around and we'll have those discussions if you're interested. But thank you for being here. It will get better. It's going to get more fun. Because like I said, for me, Get Sold is not about just the spiritual. It's literally, for me, I saw it crystal clear. It's like the human meeting the soul again. The human in all its aspects of emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and the soul reuniting so that you get to see or learn what your soul's lessons were. And that also came to me from the guides, was that I call them failures and they don't. The soul is like, oh, no, so you just had another experience for us to take back to Creator Source when we go back home. It's just more experiences. Me, I always seem to find myself in a puddle of mud. I didn't want that. I was like, no, I want to go over there. But I'd find every puddle in the meantime. And then by the time I got there, like, now I forgot what I was doing. So, all right. Thank you so much for being here. Love you. And it's going to get better. Like, it's going to get more fun. Talk about more things, worldly things, whatever. Okay. Thank you. Ooh, I'm definitely recording. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.